I transmigrated into the body of a guy with top-tier combat abilities. I had just slaughtered a group of man-eating ghouls and hadn't even had time to catch my breath when a 400 kilograms Mary Sue jumped out and pointed her finger at me, scolding. Feng Yuxiu, you're so powerful. If you had come sooner, Brother Wang and Sister Li wouldn't have died. It's all your fault. You killed them. You should commit suicide as atonement. Hearing this, my eyes turned cold. Damned ghouls possessing innocent girls. Son of Underthunder. Eat my attack. Righteously, I said that and sealed her throat with a sword. With a ripping sound, her head spun as it flew off along the edge of the great sword's blade. Was she really possessed by a ghoul? Why doesn't it seem like it? You chauvinist. You're killing innocent people. Another middle-aged woman jumped out. She had the standard Fu shower face, a receding jawline, a pancake face, high cheekbones, wearing a pair of big black rim glasses, and weighed 300 kilograms. People with this appearance are usually very good at arguing. They constantly say, "So what?" at every turn. They could drive people to death. I could foresee that if I couldn't shut her up in time, I might develop inner demons. There's another ghoul. Eat another attack. With a ripping sound, her head flew off too. Next, I reinforced the door of the house, sealing it with secret runes to prevent the ghouls outside from breaking in again. Then I looked at the few survivors huddled in the corner and said to them in an unquestionable tone, "Don't be afraid, everyone. We'll be safe as long as we make it to dawn. From now on, don't make any noise or we'll attract the ghouls. Even if you have to fart, clench your ass and let it out." But before I could finish speaking, a hysterical cry of "was" suddenly erupted. I was startled, thinking something had exploded. Turning my head, I saw a 500 kilograms adult fatty thrashing and rolling on the ground, wailing like a maggot wriggling on the ground. I roughly understood his words. This kid missed his mom. It was obvious that his mom was really good to him. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to feed him so much. For the sake of his mom being a good mom, I restrained the impulse to kill him with a sword, handed him a phone and comforted him. Your crying will attract the ghouls. Stop crying. Be good. Play Genshin Impact. Please just think of it as being for everyone. But this mama's boy fatty didn't appreciate it at all. He slapped my phone away and continued to wail. I don't want to play Genshin Impact. I want mommy. The ear-piercing scream lowered my patience to freezing point. I'm still too kind. What's the use of just wanting? You should go out and find your mom. I kicked him out of the house and then closed the iron door. I could feel through the iron door that the fatty was quickly torn into 8 pieces by the ghouls in the corridor. At that moment I suddenly felt much better. He was also alive. How could you do that? It's normal for people to miss their moms. Why are you so cruel? Another woman's voice sounded behind me. What the hell? There's another expert. I turned around and my pupils suddenly shrank. This person's tonnage was also not small. If she didn't weigh 300 kilograms, she had to be at least 200 kilograms. My face was ashamed. Did I stir up a SA's nest? It's too dense. Do they secretly eat pig feed? Don't say it. Don't say it. I glanced at the corner and suddenly noticed there were dozens of bags of pig feed piled up in the corner, and the seals had already been opened. Ah, damn it. So that's what it was. His crying is so loud. It will attract the ghouls, I replied in a deep voice. Didn't you put runes on the iron door? She questioned. The runes aren't omnipotent. If we encounter a powerful... Before I could finish speaking, she suddenly covered her ears, shaking her pig head wildly, and said as she shook, I'm not listening. I'm not listening. I'm not listening. You go out and save him. Why don't you go out and save him? I retorted. You were the one who threw him out, so you should go, she said. That makes sense, but I'm not listening. The next second I kicked her out of the house. When her screams echoed in the corridor, I suddenly felt much better again. At this moment, a young man with a cunning look, who looked like he was good at calculation, stood up and walked towards me with vigorous strides. What, do you also want to find your mom? My eyes turned cold, my voice lowered, and I slowly drew my greatsword, but the cunning young man waved his hands repeatedly and said, Don't worry, big brother. I haven't had a mom since I was a child. Seeing your strength and decisiveness, how about we team up? After saying that, he leaned in my ear, pointed at the group cowering in the corner and whispered, I've figured it out. These guys are all damn bleeding hearts. If we keep sticking with them, we'll be goners sooner or later. Listen to me. We'll sneak away at dawn and ditch them." Hearing this, my expression became serious and I said with difficulty, "If we leave at dawn, wouldn't it be?" Seeing my hesitation, the shrewd young man tried his best to persuade me. "Buddy, there are 2 laws in the apocalypse. First law, kill the bleeding hearts on our side first. Even if you don't kill them, run away quickly. Second law, protect the bleeding hearts on the enemy's side." I nodded repeatedly. I could see he was a normal person. I patted him on the shoulder and finished what I hadn't said earlier. "You misunderstood. What I meant was, isn't it too late to run at dawn? If you ask me, let's go now." The young man silently gave a thumbs up. "Awesome." The next second, I kicked the door open and rushed out. The young man followed closely behind. As for those bleeding hearts huddled in the room, what fate would they meet without my protection? Fun Yusu will not think about this question because it has nothing to do with me. It was late at night. The surroundings were eerie. A scene of apocalypse. Piercing and chilling howls echoed in every corner of the city, making one's scalp tingle. Obviously, the descent of evil spirits was an undeniable fact. The shrewd young man said he knew a place where there were many experts. As long as we could escape there and get help from the experts, we'd be safe. So we slashed evil spirits as we made our way toward that place. Gradually, the surrounding evil spirits became more and more numerous. We were like 2 faint fireflies in the night, attracting countless predators. Night was the realm of evil spirits, and as midnight approached, they became more and more ferocious. Half an hour later, the shrewd young man was exhausted. He was bruised and battered, sitting on the ground, panting heavily. I slashed 3 evil spirits attacking him, pulled him up from the ground, and asked with a complex expression, "Can you hold on?" If he couldn't hold on any longer, I would have to abandon him. Although I possessed the top-tier combat power among humans, I would be dragged down if I had dead weight by my side. More importantly, my intuition told me that an even more terrifying boss-level ghost was approaching. I had to leave this place quickly. "Buddy, you go first. Don't worry about me," he said, seemingly righteously. "Seeing your strength and decisiveness, how about we team up?" After saying that, he leaned in my ear, pointed at the group cowering in the corner and whispered, "I've figured it out. These guys are all damn bleeding hearts. If we keep sticking with them, we'll be goners sooner or later. Listen to me. We'll sneak away at dawn and ditch them." Hearing this, my expression became serious and I said with difficulty, "If we leave at dawn, wouldn't it be?" Seeing my hesitation, the shrewd young man tried his best to persuade me. "Buddy, there are 2 laws in the apocalypse. First law, kill the bleeding hearts on our side first. Even if you don't kill them, run away quickly. Second law, protect the bleeding hearts on the enemy's side." I nodded repeatedly. I could see he was a normal person. I patted him on the shoulder and finished what I hadn't said earlier. "You misunderstood. What I meant was, isn't it too late to run at dawn? If you ask me, let's go now." The young man silently gave a thumbs up. "Awesome." Hearing this, my expression became serious and I muttered in a low voice, "How can I leave at a time like this?" The young man couldn't help but beam with joy upon hearing my words. After rolling his eyes for a moment as if calculating something, he said, "I knew it. You're a righteous person. You won't abandon me. You're thinking too much." What I wanted to say was, at a time like this I should run. Hearing this, the shrewd young man's eyes widened. "Damn you. If you really dare to abandon me, I'll kill you right now." Saying that, he actually dared to pull out a handgun and boldly point it at my head. My eyes gradually turned cold. "It seems you've been possessed by evil spirits too. Take this." I slit his throat with a sword, quickly searched his body for supplies, and disappeared into the night before the boss-level ghost arrived. Half an hour later, I temporarily settled in a temple. The temple did not worship Buddha, Bodhisattva, Jesus or anything like that, but the true martial emperor. I don't understand the Fenghua accent. Why would someone worship the Eastern god of war in this Western country? The amazing thing was that the nearby evil spirits dared not set foot in this place. They only dared to wander outside the temple. Based on this phenomenon, I decided to use this place as a base and recuperate for a while. Ever since my soul transmigrated into this world, Every time I opened my eyes, I was killing monsters. Every time I closed my eyes, I was dreaming about killing monsters. I was numb from killing. Even though I was as powerful as a god, I felt exhausted at the moment. So I needed to rest in time. Next, I began to sort out the shrewd young man's supplies. This guy's supplies were quite rich. He had everything from food to drink, enough for me to live for several days. In addition, he had a lot of gold. Also, I found a diary. After flipping through a few pages, my expression changed. This diary was full of the shrewd young man's experiences and insights into trafficking people. It turned out this kid was a human trafficker. What he did on a daily basis was lure refugees to a place called the biker gang, sell them to the gang, and then exchange them for rewards and supplies. The motorcycle gang was founded by a man named Undead Joe. They like to hunt refugees and enslave them. Male slaves are used as laborers. Female slaves are used to satisfy sexual desires and breed offspring. Obviously, the motorcycle gang is an organization filled with violence and killing. It seems that with the advent of the apocalypse and the collapse of social order, those dirty instincts that were originally suppressed have begun to erupt. Humans are always like this. When faced with disaster, they rarely help each other, but instead torture their own kind even more. On the last page of the diary he wrote, "I plan to sell this house full of fat pigs to the motorcycle gang. These people don't seem smart. They should be easy to fool. But why are they all saints? If I stay any longer, I'm afraid I'll be stuck here. I have to find a way to run." Seeing this, I was amused. The power of the saints is indeed terrifying. Even human traffickers have to avoid their edge. The next morning, I arrive at a large supermarket. I plan to go in and collect some supplies to keep warm. It's getting cold and I'm still wearing short sleeves. Although I am as strong as a god, I am a god who is afraid of the cold. At this moment, there are several zombies wandering at the entrance of the supermarket. This world is very strange. The night belongs to the evil ghosts. During the day, it is occupied by these zombies. It is extremely difficult for ordinary people to survive. When these zombies saw me, they rushed over like a gust of wind. Their speed is very fast. But unfortunately, my sword is faster. The battle ended in a second and I stepped into the supermarket. Not long after, a burst of motorcycle exhaust sounds rang out outside. Rumble, rumble. Sounds like motorcycles. Soon 3 men, 2 women, and a child walked in together. These 5 people looked arrogant, holding knives, guns, sticks, and other weapons. Their clothes were embroidered with the words motorcycle gang. They should be members of the motorcycle gang. Before I completely understand the true strength of a motorcycle gang, I don't want to cause trouble, so I decided to avoid their edge for now. Just then the child suddenly ran up to me, pointed to the heavy sword slung across my back, and said tearfully to the 5 people, "Daddy, Mommy, this bad uncle stole my weapon." The next second, the 5 of them swaggered towards me. The bald-headed, strong man in the lead took out a double-barreled shotgun, pointed it at my head and said to me, "If you know what's good for you, return my son's weapon. Otherwise, I'll blow your head off." Hearing this, I was amused. Dare to try to extort me? It seems that you're all infected with zombie poison, and your heads are not clear. The corners of my mouth twitched, and I began to kill. My movements were as swift as the wind, a sword of astonishing brilliance. Instantly, I killed the 3 men, including the bald-headed strong man. Only 1 woman, 1 old man, and that damn child were left. "Don't kill me. I'll let you play with my body," the woman screamed repeatedly, about to take off her clothes and show off her figure. "Sorry, I don't carve sculptures out of a mentally deficient wall," I said coldly and slashed down again. The woman's body split in 2. For a moment, only an old man and that little brat were left on the scene. This foreign old man was very cunning and immediately stood on the moral high ground, pointing at me. "Sir, are you going to kill even children and the elderly? Don't you Chinese people always advocate respecting the old and loving the young? You must not embarrass the Chinese people." "You're right. The Chinese people do respect the old and love the young." I nodded, seemingly agreeing with his statement. Seeing that I said this, he couldn't help but relax. However, the next second I said, "It's a pity you're not a child." Then I turned to look at the little brat. "You're not an old man. Old man, child. Eat my attack." I swung my sword and a crescent moon soared into the sky. Next, I searched the 6 people for supplies and then came outside the supermarket. I saw 5 motorcycles parked neatly there. Obviously, these motorcycles were theirs. I planned to choose a motorcycle to use as a mount, but the handlebars of these motorcycles were higher and longer than the others. I felt like riding these motorcycles was like doing pull-ups. I didn't like this kind of motorcycle. At this time, several zombies appeared nearby. My eyes turned cold and I prepared to attack. However, the next second I saw these zombies completely ignore me, each choosing a motorcycle and then riding them smoothly. I was stunned. Zombies riding motorcycles. What a bizarre scene. Half an hour later, I rode a motorcycle with short handlebars back to the temple of the true martial emperor. Standing at the temple gate, I noticed something was wrong. The sign I'd hung there that read, "The local famous grass has an owner," had been tossed aside. From inside the temple came occasional sounds of laughter and chatter. Clearly, my base had been occupied. I pushed the door open, ready to demand an explanation from those people. Following the voices, I saw some sexy, beautiful, and charming Western women with 36D figures, curves in all the right places, and legs longer than my life. They were all gathered in the main hall. They were wearing nuns' habits. They must be nuns, right? I couldn't help licking my lips. Big Y, who are you? Just as I was engrossed in admiring these beauties, a shout came from the side of the main hall, ruining my mood. I looked over. The speaker seemed to be a priest. He was wearing nothing but a tattered pair of underwear. Such a beautiful scene. And suddenly there was a man. This made me think of Myo's song. Who allowed you in? This place is under my protection. I asked him. Huh? Yellow monkey. You say so and it's true. The priest's words were extremely rude, and he carried that unique sense of racial superiority Westerners have. I say it is, so it is. I didn't waste words with him. Slowly drawing the heavy sword from my back, the blade of the heavy sword rubbed against the scabbard, making a grinding iron sound like waves crashing. It sounded very eerie, yet also very pleasing to the ear. Alright, I forgot to tell you. This sword is called Great Annihilation. It's 1.8 m long, weighs 300 kilograms, and can split the sky with one strike. As soon as the sword was unsheathed, the priest turned pale with fright immediately, even his balls trembling. He was clearly a man who knew when to fold and quickly said, "We're all gentlemen. Have the guts to duel me with words instead. Ladies, isn't that right?" As soon as he said that, the 8 nuns looked over. One of the most beautiful tall Western women with tender eyes and a pitiful expression said to me, "Brave warrior of Hasha, I'm very afraid of blood. If the conflict between you and the priest really reaches an irreparable point, can I ask you to have a verbal duel?" Seeing she was so beautiful and spoke so nicely, I nodded slightly. How does this verbal duel work? I asked the priest. Play poker. 9 cards compare hands. Winner stays, loser leaves. I nodded, my tone lazy and casual. Start. Actually, I'm also a master at card games. A bet right now would be a nice pastime for my leisure. Why not? Wait. The priest waved his hand, then spoke in broken Chinese. I want to check the cards. With that, he started shuffling the cards furiously. I was speechless. The cards were clearly taken from his pocket. What the hell is he checking them for? If anyone should check, it's me. Did this guy watch God of Gamblers too much? But for the sake of that beauty, I held back the urge to kill him. Good. The cards are fine. Then he started dealing 9 rounds total. Each of us had 9 cards in front of us. We split the 9 cards into 3 piles of 3, placing them on the table one by one. First pile I won 3 queens. Second pile I still won 3 kings. Third pile I won again 3. As you lost, I said calmly before I changed my mind, get out of here. No. How could I lose so badly? I demand another bet. The priest suddenly went crazy, quickly stripping off the only pair of underwear he had left and slamming it on the table. This underwear has been with me for 30 years. Worth 0.000001 yuan. Note the yuan I'm talking about is Zimbabwean yuan. I'm now betting it as a billion. Note again, the billion I'm talking about is dollars. I'm betting my entire fortune against you. As soon as he said that, I was speechless. A tattered pair of underwear as a billion reverse valuation. Why are there such stupid people in the world? This man is already poisoned by corpse venom beyond saving. With that, I dragged him outside the temple and slit his throat with one sword strike. 3 days later, I got up from the sea of white. I have to say, the taste of tall Western women is truly wonderful beyond measure. Yaki. Big yaki. Of course, 3 days straight wasn't my limit. It was the limit of the food. Right now our supplies are running out, and I have to go out to find food. After a moment's thought, I decided to bring them all with me. I wouldn't want anything to happen to my 8 luxury cars while I'm gone. For example, someone sneaking in and blowing up my 8 luxury cars, or some organization sneaking in and driving my 8 luxury cars away. The search for supplies went smoothly. In just half a day, the 9 of us returned fully loaded. I got a lot of interesting things. Little whips, stockings, short skirts, and so on. However, when the 9 of us returned to the temple, the scene before my eyes made my pupils shrink. My motorcycle was burned, and next to it was a challenge letter from the biker gang. Obviously, the biker gang had been here after we left the temple. They were clearly looking for revenge. In addition, the statue of the true warrior great emperor had also been smashed by them. I knew very well that without the protection of the true warrior great emperor, we couldn't stay here. Once night fell, evil spirits would pounce. Although I am as strong as a god, I cannot protect the safety of 8 people at the same time. Moreover, this temple really couldn't be defended. Darling, what should we do now? Ruby asked, clinging to my arm. Ruby is the most beautiful of the 8 luxury cars. She has cold, white, smooth skin, and although she has a Western face, every smile and frown is exactly like an Eastern beauty. It could be said that she perfectly inherited all the advantages of Eastern and Western people. We can only go to the Freemasons, I replied in a deep voice. The Freemasons are an organization I heard about on the radio the day before yesterday. They called themselves on the radio. The Freemasons are different from the biker gang. They're an organization founded by a group of people with ideals. They specialize in taking in refugees and leading everyone out of trouble. In the Freemasons, everyone needs to work, but everyone is equal. Although I was skeptical about them, there was no other choice at the moment. I couldn't possibly take 8 luxury cars to join the biker gang. Right. Speaking of the biker gang, you dare burn my motorcycle and smash my true warrior great emperor? Just wait. After an hour's journey, the 9 of us finally arrived at the Freemasons before dark. It was an underground air raid shelter. Looking around, the air raid shelter was crowded with at least several thousand people. The entrance was guarded by 2 incredibly solid and heavy concrete doors. Very safe. The guard responsible for the gate registered the identity information of the 9 of us and let us in without bothering us. At the same time, the sky had completely darkened. It was pitch black outside the entrance. Everyone stand back. I'm going to close the door. The guard warned the surrounding refugees before pressing the electric switch. But just then, you're not allowed to close the door. My boyfriend hasn't come back yet. A woman rushed over, blocking the closing door. The guard was startled, stopped closing the door and persuaded, "Madam, your behavior is very dangerous. Please don't interfere with my work." However, this woman didn't listen at all and insisted on blocking the door. At this moment, a creepy howl sounded outside the cave. Obviously, the evil spirits smelled it and were coming. "Little girl, you'll kill everyone. If you don't close the door, the evil spirits will come in. Little girl, I beg you." Everyone was trying to persuade her with words, but no one actually tried to hit her, which I didn't understand at all. However, facing everyone's persuasion, the woman still ignored it and said righteously, "You don't understand love at all. Are you planning to watch me lose my love? You have no compassion. God will punish you." Hearing this, my pupil shrank. Damn, what a powerful sanctimonious person. Her skill in moral blackmail has reached its peak against this level of saintly mother. Verbal attacks are ineffective. Only classical mechanics can be used. As expected, her brain is not clear after being infected by corpse poison. The next second, under the gazes of hundreds of wide eyes, I used only one sword to make her head fly. I kicked her headless corpse out and said to the guard, "Close the door." The guard nodded at me gratefully and quickly pressed the electric switch. "Baga, your heart is very bad. She just wanted to wait for love and you actually killed her. You're too cruel. Aren't you afraid of having nightmares?" At this moment, A short middle-aged man with a Japanese accent stood up and pointed at my nose to scold me. Oh, a little Japanese sanctimonious person. My eyes lit up immediately. The next second, "You are transformed from an evil spirit," I said to him. Before he could react, I chopped off his head. Just then another person jumped out. Blah blah blah. He spoke in the same manner with the same logic and words as the previous two, like the whispers of a demon. I thought, killing one is killing. Killing 10 is also killing. Might as well wipe them out in one go. You're infected with corpse poison, I said. Then send him out of this world with a sword. Next, a bizarre scene unfolded. More and more holier-than-thou types rushed over to point fingers at me. Clearly, the number of bleeding hearts here was outrageously high. So terrifying. And I didn't bother pretending anymore. Revealing my hand, stopped acting. I raised my hand and the blade fell. Raised my hand and the blade fell. Raised my hand and the blade fell. From the South Heavenly Gate all the way to Pongai East Road without even blinking. I don't know how long it went on, but the corpses outside the door were piled 3 stories high. And the evil ghosts wandering near the cave entrance were actually full. Their eyes were glazed over, clearly suffering from carb overload. Even when I threw fresh corpses in front of them, they were unmoved. Who else? Who else has something to say to me? Speak quickly. I'm in a hurry. I looked around and asked, "Darling, can I remind you of something?" Ruby pointed cautiously to the empty area inside the cave. "Everyone inside has been killed by you. Now, besides the 9 of us plus this guard, there's no one left." Hearing this, my eyes widened. So, I accidentally wiped out the Freemasons. This is really too absurd. In the following days, I officially took over the Freemasons and renamed it the Illuminati. I sent out broadcasts via radio, attracting refugees to come and join us. But to join us, they had to pass 3 tests. The first test: if you get a videotape that says, "Watching this will guarantee your death in 3 days," then the question is, do you watch it or not? The second test: suppose someone knocks on the door and they say pitifully, "Open the door quickly, zombies are chasing me." But through the peephole you see that they're bleeding, clearly scratched by zombies and about to turn. Their explanation is, "I was cut by a knife, not bitten by zombies, and I have supplies in my hands." The question is, do you open the door or not? The third test: suppose your teammate is entangled by an evil ghost/zombie and is about to be killed, but you have 2 weapons that can save them: a brick and an AS-686 shotgun. The question is, which weapon would you choose? If you answer any of these 3 questions incorrectly, I will give you a free set of evil spirit possession, corpse poison, infection, unexplainable combo. After a month of development, the Illuminati's membership finally broke 100. For this, I specially opened a bottle of champagne to celebrate. Originally, 100,000 people came to join me, but 99,900 people did not pass my 3 tests. I sent them to meet God. The Illuminati's reputation also became infamous as a result. In the eyes of the refugees, I was a ruthless demon who killed innocent people, more evil than the leader of the biker gang, Immortan Joe, so much so that no one wanted to join us anymore. I slapped my thigh. Damn it. How did I end up becoming a villain? I was clearly doing something awesome, restoring human glory. How did it blow up like this? I don't understand. Where did things go wrong? Another month later, Immortan Joe led the biker gang to attack me. In addition, there were 100,000 refugees helping him, a total of 110,000 people. My subordinates panicked and asked me what to do. You're asking me what to do? Huh. Hack them down. I was holding the Great Destroyer with a powerful aura of, "I will go even if there are 10,000 people," and charged into the enemy ranks. Half an hour later, 110,000 troops were all killed by me. The awesome and amazing Immortan Joe was hung on a lamppost by me. I perfectly demonstrated what it means to be an army of one. At that moment, the worship of my 100-odd subordinates reached its peak. A year later, relying on my extremely high martial power, I slashed my way through this world. Evil ghosts, zombies, monsters, etc. were all wiped out by me. I thought things were finally over. Human civilization could finally continue safely. However, one day, a celestial and virtuous immortal cultivator with a domineering attitude stood in front of me in midair. He told me that the reason why ghosts, monsters and zombies appeared in this world was actually a gene-breeding experiment conducted by this group of cultivators. The intention was to select and cultivate people with extremely high talent, and I obviously was the person they were looking for. "Become my disciple and I will help you step onto the path of cultivation," he said to me. I refused. Would he be so kind? Wouldn't he want to refine me into a furnace or seize my body? "You have no right to refuse," he said to me in an icy tone. "I'll ask you again, are you coming with me?" I slowly pulled out the Great Extinction. "Are you suffering from corpse poison?" Seeing me say that, he looked disappointed. "This is such a pity. Great heavenly creation palm." In an instant, a giant palm almost obscuring the entire sky descended from above and covered me. The terrifying pressure instantly tore apart even the clouds. The whole world seemed to have plunged into the apocalypse. Cultivators are indeed cultivators, strong and awesome enough. However, he ultimately underestimated my strength. He thought I was just a simple person who had achieved sainthood through physical cultivation. In fact, my true identity is I am Erlang Shan, the manifesting saint. If heaven hadn't given birth to Yongjian, the eternal apocalypse would be like a long night. "Eat my halberd." The Great Extinction heavy sword in my hand immediately transformed into a halberd. One halberd thrust out. His great heavenly creation palm was directly pierced by me. It exploded. "No, no, no. You're actually Yongjian." The cultivator's eyes widened, his face full of disbelief. He wanted to escape. But how could I possibly let him escape? "Eat another halberd." I only needed 1 second to kill him. "My name is Feng Yuxiu, and I am the combat power ceiling of this world, as well as the combat power ceiling of the entire cultivation world. Of course, you can also affectionately call me Erlang Shan, the manifesting saint Yongjian. Under my leadership, human civilization was able to continue. That's a pity." Great celestial creation palm. In an instant, a gigantic palm almost obscuring the entire sky descended from above, covering me. The terrifying pressure instantly tore through the clouds. The whole world seemed to have fallen into an apocalypse. Cultivators are indeed cultivators, strong and awesome enough. However, he ultimately underestimated my strength, thinking I was just a simple person who achieved sainthood through physical cultivation. In fact, my true identity is that I am young. If heaven hadn't created me, Yongjian, the eternal apocalypse would be like a long night. "Take my halberd." The Great Destruction heavy sword in my hand immediately transformed into a halberd. One thrust. His great celestial creation palm was directly pierced and exploded. "No, no, no. You're actually Yongxian." The cultivator's eyes widened, his face full of disbelief. He wanted to escape. But how could I possibly let him escape? "Take another halberd." I only took 1 second to kill him. "My name is Feng Yuxiu, and I am the power ceiling of this world, and also the power ceiling of the entire cultivation world. Of course, you can also affectionately call me Erlang manifesting divinity Yongjian. Under my leadership, human civilization was able to